Welcome everyone to our fourth podcast of Break the Stigma. And we're here with Jennifer today. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
So first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. Well, I was born on Vancouver Island and I live in Vancouver now, and I work as an educator. And I've actually just won again this year, so I'm going to do a little bit of bragging. 2 awards from the program that I teach in. So I won a Teaching Excellence Award, and again, I won the Outstanding Contribution to the BMLC program. So I've won that 10 times now, and I've won the Teaching Award 3 times. So I'm kind of starting to get the message that my students really enjoy my teaching style. And I must say it's mutual. Like, I love each and every student that I interface with. So it's my passion. And I really feel like I found my place where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. So I don't feel like I'm, searching, looking for where my passion lies. I'm embedded within it and really enjoying what I do. And I teach undergraduate med lab science, so a variety of different topics, both like formal lecture settings, group discussions, and then laboratory sessions as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's so incredible. We need more teachers like you, and I'm jealous that you found that passion and you're really striving with that. And can you just tell us, give us an example of one topic that you teach?
Sure, yeah. Histochemistry is a topic which is a little bit less known. So how about toxicology? Most people know a little bit more about toxicology. We have group seminars with that. We re-enhance the learning that the learners had doing like the formal lecture setting. So basically where you're passively sitting there and you're receiving information. And then the next class is where we sit in a big kind of like a community hall environment. And we have a group discussion and we explore who knows stuff, who doesn't know stuff. And we try to get everyone engaged in the conversation and everyone's opinion. And historically, what I found is just in general, this is very general, young ladies often need more like a little bit of a nudge to get their voice heard. And the young men are very, very confident, very able to express themselves without hesitation, typically. So my role is to like get those shyer ones, those quieter ones to come out and get them to realize that they have a voice and what they say is valuable and important, just as important as anyone else, including me. Yeah. Right? Like, we all have a voice and what we say is valuable, no matter what our position is within the hierarchy, or what color we are, what sex we are. Like, everyone should have a space and place to express their thoughts on a subject.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's so powerful. And I think that's so applicable, especially in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. For young women in STEM to have that voice, because I mean, coming from that place as a young lady in that field, it can be intimidating to have a voice and express your opinions. So that's so
powerful. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure you experienced that as well throughout your career. But
oh yes, I've had many bullyish, dominating male. I've had my butt smacked more times than I'd care to say, and yeah, I've been grabbed, and all kinds of things happen in the work environment where people believe they have a right to behave that way because it's a cultural or a systemic, I call it a misunderstanding, but it's the way that our world typically can work, and we have to put a mirror up and say, yeah, no, that's not okay to do that. No offense, I still love you, I'm always going to love you, but you can't grab me there.
I feel like there has been a lot of change, but there's a lot more work to do. So
oh boy.
yeah, but we're moving in that direction. So I guess that's
and the secret is not to get disheartened. You just bite off a chew that you can swallow. You can't eat a whole elephant at once. I think that saying goes, you have to eat an elephant with a single bite. Not that I'd ever eat an elephant, but you just have to bite what you can chew in that moment and know that not every day you're going to achieve every goal you have. Like, some days you just need to rest and digest, right?
No, absolutely. And it does really take a village. And so hopefully we create that movement going forward as well.
Yeah. It certainly does.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to just explore a bit about your mental health journey now,
sure.
Either as a professional or as a mother or as an individual. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your mental health journey, just as your relationship with it.
Right. So I would say that it started at a very young age. And this is another thing, like you mentioned, it takes a community or a village to raise a child. That is so true, or to just be connected with one another. At a very young age, I realized I didn't have a normal family environment. So for example, I would go to the store when I was you know, a toddler, maybe a little older. And then the store clerks would, you know, they'd whisper and go, follow that one. She's probably going to be a thief because she's from that family. So that stigma of shame, that stigma of coming from the wrong womb. I was born from the wrong womb. I'm poor, you know, I'm impoverished. And that comes with all kinds of other aspects to it too, like abuse, right? So like just knowing that you come from a different space than the general world around you. How do I sit in that? How do I feel about that? What does that cause me to become, or how am I going to accept that as being part of who I am? For example, at the age of 8, I clearly remember one of my uncle's friends. I was just playing in the living room and he started to vomit. He had probably drank too much the night before. And I was by myself in the living room at my grandparents' house, and I noticed that. And I remember, you know, oh, my uncle had just OD'd on heroin because he had choked on his own vomitus. So at 8, I knew, oh, he's going to die. I need to flip him over. So I turned him over and he vomited all over the place. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get in trouble now because the carpet's dirty. So I ran and hid, right? Like, so you recognize, like, that's not normal. That's not what most, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of children because I grew up in that area. I've seen that behavior. It's quite widespread. It's more common than people realize. But it really gives you assets that you wouldn't have gained otherwise. So that's how I like to approach that, as, you know, that shouldn't happen. And that's just one small example. I could probably write a book about what's happened to me, but instead of taking it as that happened to me and I'm a victim, I prefer to think of it as, wow, I've developed a lot of skills. And boy, do I ever have compassion. So if any student walks into my door, no matter what the issue, whether they're male, female, like it doesn't matter what the issue is, I'm going to be able to find a little tangible asset that I can grab onto and I can go, oh yeah, I remember feeling that way. I've been there, I've done that. Not the exact same thing maybe, but I felt that way that this person is feeling right now. So I can really have compassion, like raw, open compassion, you know, like at a level where they go, yeah, this person isn't just blowing smoke. They really do feel how I'm feeling. And so that's an asset. That's a tool in my toolkit. And I can use that to kind of guide people to the right way of living, instead of, because there's different choices we can make. Yeah. And it's those choices that can later define who we become, and we can live a life of misery if we make a few of the wrong choices, right? So how do we steer that ship a little bit over to this direction so it's not about self-harm or self-abuse with whatever, you know, there's all kinds of addictions. So you want to kind of get the person to find healthier ways to manage the pain and suffering that they're enduring in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And what a strength-based manner you approach your life now from such a hard childhood upbringing. That's really inspiring. And I'm sure individuals need to hear that's possible to come from that strength base, because I think it's really hard to foster that and find that courage and bravery to kind of steer in that direction, like you were saying.
Yeah, well, again, it's all choice, but you also have to be true to who you are, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to drink. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm, you know, a perfect person at all or anything, and that I don't do things, but I just don't want to live like that, you know, and so you can end up with people like that in your life because that's what you've seen. That was your example. That was normal, right? And so that can be a choice you make, but then, you know, the downstream effect. So unfortunately in my life, I've had to make some really hard choices with friendships or with boyfriends I've had. And if they do start to engage in that kind of behavior, I just have to go, nope, I am not going to maintain this relationship. If you're going down that road, I'm not going to go down that road with you. It's not where I'm headed. I have stuff to do. I have to share my experiences with the world, right? I'm like, my job is to try and make the world a better place, one person at a time. And it starts with me, right? Like I have to keep looking in the mirror and be real about who I am and whether I have unconscious bias, like we all do. So identifying that, not needing to be right, because if I'm right, that means that you have to be wrong, and that's not fair to you. And then we don't have a relationship anymore.
Yeah, Oh
So
my.
my family taught me how to love unconditionally,
Mhm.
because as extremely dysfunctional as they were, I passionately love them.
Right.
So then how do you put those two disconnected pieces together?
Yeah.
Well, you just accept it and you realize there's matter, there's antimatter, there's dark, there's light, there's good and bad in all of us, right? Like I don't need to judge them. I just need to love them. So I just love them unconditionally. It doesn't mean I want to do what they do or engage in that behavior.
Mhm.
So they actually have taught me a great deal, and I feel quite fortunate now. I didn't at the time, and it takes decades to get to this place, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you remember a distinct moment where you did take that moment of self-reflection and self-acceptance and self-love to really put yourself first and pursue kind of that strength-based approach to your mental health.
Right. It was probably when I was getting a divorce. So when you come from dysfunction, you can have dysfunctional relationships. And that doesn't mean that the relationship is devoid of love. I passionately love my husband and vice versa. And we have two fabulous, amazing children that I would never go back and change that ever. But I realized that he wasn't treating me the way I deserved. He wasn't being respectful. He wasn't supporting me or my educational endeavors. No fault of his. It's not a blame game or anything, but I just noticed. And one day at the dinner table, he said something and I laughed, because that was just my way of dealing with trauma, was to laugh it off. And my daughter actually said, she would have been about 9 years old at the time, like, why are you laughing? That's not funny. That's just rude, she said to me. And that really was like a good slap on my face. Like, what am I teaching my children?
Okay.
Right? What message do I want to send to them, that it's okay to talk to women like that? Like it's not. So I sought counseling. I tried to get him to go. He didn't want to go. But through that really knowledgeable, wise, professional counseling, you get a lot of insight. So I strongly suggest, like, seek that support when you need it. There is no shame in talking it out with someone. Like, we need to do that. And people have a lot of experience, and we need to garnish that and realize that we deserve, respect, and we deserve support. So this lady was immensely supportive, and she actually said, like, most women would have left 20 years ago, which just kind of reiterated that I had put up with a lot and I didn't have to do it anymore. But a lot of people in that culture really shamed me. Like, I literally had a friend invite me for coffee, and I thought, oh, someone in that community is going to still be my friend, right? And she literally said to me, like, how can you do this to your family? How can you be so selfish? You're a horrible person. And so I really need to gather a lot of strength in myself at that time, right? And even when I went back to visit my children, because, he wouldn't take me seriously, so I had to leave my family home. And he would, bully me. Him and his mom would bully me in my own kitchen and shove me and stuff. And I thought, wow, I really have to find some strength here to stand up to this. Because you feel so alone at the time, because the whole world turns against you, because you're a bad woman. You're not taking one for the team and staying, right? You're breaking apart an entire family, and how dare you? You're so incredibly selfish. But anyway, it was a journey where I had to really build an internal process of, like, nope, I'm not going to take this. And I've dealt with way worse in my life, and I've survived. No one's managed to kill me yet, so I'm going to dig my heels in. And I called him one day. So after my rental lease was up, I didn't want to, negate on that. So I stayed for a year. But after that was up, I just called him and I said, I'm moving back in. And he goes, you can't do that. I said, try and stop me. It's my house. They're my kids. He goes, well, my mom's, in our bed. She lives in our room now. And I go, well, tell her to move over, because I'm coming back. So that really impressed upon him that, oh, I can't really push this woman around anymore. She's not going to take this from me anymore, or my mother. Not that they're bad people. I just want to reiterate, I unconditionally love them too. But at the time, they were like, that opposing thing that I had to stand up to. Yeah. So I just moved back in and got my kids back and my pet, and took back what was mine, because I had spent my entire life raising my children. He was not around. It was always me. So I really harmed my kids doing that too. I know they were very angry, but I had to do it for me and long term for them, so they would see that women don't deserve to be treated that way.
No, absolutely. courageous story that is. I can't even imagine. And I'm glad you are in a place now of conquering your life. It is it is inspiring to hear your voice and how you took a stance in your life. And you mentioning your kids, can we just explore a little bit how your mental health journey was impacted or changed when you became a mother?
Right. Yeah, so there's that day before you have a baby, and then your life changes completely after when you have one. Like there's no going back. And then you can't stop caring. Like your whole heart exists in those other small people, but so that's a risk. I've always been guarded, right? You learn not to trust people, you learn to put up several layers of protection. So I had to learn to open my heart up, still have protection, still realize that, be careful who you trust. Not all people are good. Not all people have good intentions and are open and loving. So, because I can be very naive, and that's led to a lot of pain and suffering that I didn't have to have. But my children, like open-heartedness, right? And then realizing that I affect these people. It doesn't matter what I say. Like if I say, don't smoke, I'm standing there with a cigarette in my mouth, like they're going to get the message to smoke, that it's okay to smoke. So I had to be the best person I could be for them to emulate.
Yeah.
So going back to school, I think I was 40 when I went back to school. No support from my husband at the time, and they were toddlers, and they saw how hard it was. And I had a couple of jobs, and my father was an alcoholic, and he showed up at my doorstep one day, and he needed to detox. So I had him, and I had the toddlers, and I had 2 jobs, and I was in a school program. And I thought, you don't think of it at the time. You just do what you have to do to achieve your goal. So I got through it, and it's done now. And now I have a job that I really love. But boy, was it ever tough when I look back.
Absolutely.
And yeah, friends have said, like, how do you, at the time, you don't want to hear, like, how do you do that? Because then you start second guessing yourself, like, what am I doing? But looking back, I go, yeah, that's one more thing in my toolkit. That's one more thing where I can endure quite a bit of stress, right? I can juggle some balls. But now it's time to be gentler and kinder on myself, and to let go of that need, to prove to the world that I'm valuable.
Yeah.
That I'm respectable. Even though I come from this, please believe that I'm not that.
Yeah.
And so, I hate to use other cultures as an example, but I can really relate to how some cultures feel. They've been systemically treated like they're nothing and that they don't have any value. I feel that. Like I can relate to that, because unfortunately in our world, it does matter what womb you're born from. And there's so many human resources that are wasted because we have that faulty belief, our faulty belief that skin tone matters. Like there's no scientific basis whatsoever for our faulty systems and our faulty beliefs.
Yeah.
But they exist. And so we find ourselves within this fabric of society that it's just not equitable or just, really, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like you're kind of touching on it, but if you feel comfortable, can you maybe share a little bit how you've felt stigmatized during that journey of mental health?
Right. So for example, on the plane coming back from Europe with my toddlers, so again, if you're poor, you don't have resources, you don't have a nanny, there is no servant to help you, you're on your own. So I'm trying to run after 2 kids and a big pile of stuff because we were moving back to Canada. And of course I was on my own as usual. And I think it was, I won't say the airline, but they were all tall and blonde and lovely looking. And they just kind of looked down at me like, that kind of behavior. And I thought, I could use some help here.
Yeah.
No one. I think there were 3 or 4 of them standing there talking, just kind of rolling their eyes and looking at me in disdain. And I thought, I never want to be you. I do not want to be you. That is a miserable way to live your life. Yeah. You should be, your job is to help people. That's what you're hired to do. And you look down disdainfully. So that's just one example. Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that. Have you ever felt that when pursuing either counseling or other methods you chose to help your mental wellness?
Yeah.
Can you share maybe a little bit of the stigma that you've experienced in terms of counseling or other methods you've used?
I don't think I've experienced any stigma with that. I've been told, like, what are you here for? You don't need any help. You sound fine to me. Maybe your partner should come in and talk to me. Like, I've heard that a couple of times. That's not helpful. It's like, I came to you because I want to find out about me, not about him, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was only until I went to a female that was older and she'd been through divorce herself. She really sat comfortably in that, like really understood, and just allowed me to talk and to cry and
Yeah.
to get out a lot of stuff that I'd never really talked about before. And everybody needs to do that. I don't know if it was because the male counselors I'd gone to were less comfortable with. I don't know. They just figured I was fine. Like, oh, you've got this. You're fine. You don't need any help.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can juggle all those balls. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Go team, right? It's like, well, I came to you for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just because I'm not falling apart or sticking a needle in my vein doesn't mean I don't need some support, right? Like,
Yeah.
or someone to talk to.
Yeah. And did you just kind of explore different counselors to move past that and end up with the counselor that worked for you?
Right. So whenever I had a job, so economic equity is something I'm moving forward towards now. That's my biggest thing. Because if other people hate you, who cares if you have the ability to send your kids to a decent school and have a decent place to live that's clean and you have fresh water? Like, it doesn't matter so much when there's economic equity, but there seriously isn't, right? So that's another thing. You come from this background and then there's hardly any resources. So if you are resourced and you come from like a middle class family, you can go to a counselor. There's going to be lots of help. You can take a month off to process stuff. When you're impoverished and you're juggling so many balls, there's no time for you to relax and think about your mental health. You're busy. You got to clean up and make lunches and get to work and get to school and do a million different things in your day. Like, people telling you to practice good self-care is just one more burden that's placed on your back. So when we give advice, we need to look at the whole big picture. Because is it our need to feel good about being helpful? About, oh, I'm good, I'm helping, I'm charitable, right?
Yeah.
So what is it about that charity? Like, is it feeding you, or are you actually really helping the other person? Are you really looking at the big scope of their whole life and realizing that, hey, that suggestion is really not going to help them right now. They don't have the resources or the time to do that, right?
Yeah.
So coming from poverty, there's no resources. There is no magic support. If you do get support, it's usually the worst level. Like, it's always the worst care providers who can't make the big bucks, so they're working at that level. For example, I got a tooth fixed when I was in grade 6, months after it had been broken, because my mother lived on welfare. So we had to wait for, a welfare dentist who would be kind enough to take my case. And then I had a big yellow half of a tooth on the front of my tooth. And it was like, and I said to him, like, this doesn't look like my, and he goes, oh, it'll, over time, you'll age and it'll get darker and the colors will match. And I was like, wow. So I have a half a yellow tooth on my very front tooth. So it took me getting resources, getting jobs where I had dental care, so I finally could have a decent smile and get the care that I deserved. It's not out there. And that's why economic equity is such, like, to me, the most important piece right now, right? For the Indigenous people, for Black people, for all people, brown people, whoever, impoverished people. Like, we need to share our resources, because our human resources are being wasted. When all people can't achieve their greatest goals in life, we're wasting human resources, right? So I want to push towards that shift and lose that stigma that if you don't drive a Lamborghini and have a fancy shirt on, that you're a nobody. Like, that is just not true, right?
No, and that's such a deep-rooted systemic issue, I suppose. And will take years and years and lots of people, and again, the village, to really approach that. So kind of going along that strain, I know that we're kind of touching on not only mental health, but just equity in general. But how do you suppose that us as a culture or us as a society can move to a place where that stigma is no longer present, maybe in general, but also specifically towards mental health?
Right. So I think I try to rationalize, like, where does this come from? Where do these great divides, where do they come from?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is fear-based and value-based. Like a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't feel they're valued unless they have money. No one's going to want me unless I dangle a carrot of maybe they'll get a house from me if when I die or something. That's sad. So I say, love people unconditionally. The more we all open our hearts to everyone, even if they're not the greatest people on the planet for you to interact with, love them anyway. Love them in spite of all the things you don't like about them. Just love them. Let them know you unconditionally love them. And then that starts to break down that fear that they're going to be lonely or no one's going to want them unless they have a lot of resources, right? So how do I practice that in my daily life? So Madison, you might be, instead of Madison Todd, you might be Michelle Obama. I would not treat you any differently because I don't care whether you're Madison Todd or Michelle Obama. You're both equally valuable human beings in my eyes. We have to drop this bowing down and iconicizing certain individuals. That doesn't mean we can't respect the work they do and the great things they achieve for the communities that they resource. We love that about people, but everyone's valuable. So stop, sucking up to people that have resources. That helps. Stop thinking some people are better than others or some people are a waste of your time. How do you think you would feel if I said to you, well, Madison, I only talk to people that have PhDs. I'm sorry. You're just not valuable enough for me to spend my time with you. Or people that treat students as less than, right? And everyone stands in line to get someone's autograph and other people are left in the background valueless. Like, we need to stop these practices and give our time and our energy to everyone that's in front of our face. So living in the moment and giving time and energy to whoever you find yourself with. And stop clinging to some need to be with someone else or live a different life or have a different friend or be more important or, oh, if only I was richer, everyone would like me. Or if I had longer hair, the guys would be asking me out on dates. Like, we have to stop thinking in those kind of terms and just living in the moment and where we find ourselves, just loving that person in front of us.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we really hope to make that a theme on this campaign, and by including everyone from people of everyday voices and people with lived experience to mothers like yourself or professionals or whoever it is, to kind of share that voice and really emphasize that everyone has a place and has a voice and has something to share that's so valuable for everyone out there. And so thank you for being one of those voices, first of all. And secondly, that's so powerful in what you're saying, to just express that unconditional love and just accept everyone and to have that self-acceptance along with that. Do you have any suggestions on how to start that journey of self-love? Because I think it is easier said than done.
Oh yeah, it is. An unshakable faith is really valuable, like deep in the core, like your lower belly, right? Just standing rooted in your unshakable faith that you're a divine creature. So Madison, your cells put together to become Madison, no one's ever been you before. No one will ever be you again in the history of the universe. That just blows your mind, right? Like, I am unique, just like a snowflake. Sure, there's a billion snowflakes. Sure, there's billions of people, but each and every one of us, we're here, we have a purpose, right? To me, all of our purposes should be to serve others. That's what we should ultimately find deep inside of us. And that's in a myriad of different ways. You might work at a car wash or cleaning toilets or serving people in a restaurant or removing people's body parts in a surgical suite or running a country. It doesn't matter what you do, you're serving others. And part of that is knowing your value. So when we segregate and we create these structures that someone's more important than someone else, we devalue the person that cleans our toilet. And isn't it important to have a clean washroom to go? Like, that's important. So last week I saw the lady who does it here and I said, wow, you did a great job. Thank you so much. And she got a little smile on her face. It took me, I didn't have to pay for that. It took me hardly any energy to just be grateful for all the people in my life that do everything, not just some people that do some things that we place a higher value on, because that is just faulty thinking. And it's going to take several generations for us to get over that and be more connected and share more and be less fearful of one another. Right? and living in love. Stop living in your individual single family dwelling homes. Get out in your communities. Stop fearing each other and start loving each other and connecting with each other. And it could be in baby steps, right? Like, what do you like to do? Well, then, so volunteer or join something or take an art class if you can afford it. Reach out to a friend. What I love right now is my friends who actually call me and say, like, I need to see you, right? And I'm like, thank you for letting me know that you need me right now. It's just as valuable to me to be needed as it is to need someone. And that takes a lot of courage. But we all try to struggle through and go, I got this, I can handle it on my own, when it's so detrimental to our own health. And it doesn't give other people the opportunity to be supportive of us and make them feel amazing. So reach out, give someone else a chance to feel amazing and to feel valuable by letting them know that you need them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is such a culture nowadays, and like, just power through, just get through it. I can do this on my own. I don't need help. But yeah, there is no shame in needing help and needing that shoulder to lean on. And I'm absolutely the same way. I love helping people, and I love when people reach out and I can make an impact in their life. But yeah, that I think everyone can learn from that and kind of express and as well as practice that gratitude and love towards each other and towards themselves. Because you're right, we are all unique. And I mean, I'm feeling so inspired by you right now. That has already helped me. So.
And just to be trustworthy, right, and confidential. Don't make the problem worse. When someone who's already in a bad place comes to you and you then go talk about it, like it's fodder for your gossip mill so you can make a friend somewhere else, like, don't do that. Be confidential, be trustworthy, love that person and honor them above yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, thank you for sharing all of that and all of your knowledge and your experiences and relationship with mental health, as well as just childhood experiences and how that has blossomed into who you are today. Do you have anything else to add?
I just want to thank you for doing this wonderful work. I want to thank Dr. Schroff for starting MyCan and for spreading the word of love throughout the world to all the women around the planet who are all equally valuable and wonderful and amazing. And I really appreciate the great work you guys are doing. My hat goes off to all of you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you and being a voice on here at Break the Stigma. So thank you so much, Jennifer.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
You as well.